quick little update. Started installing the hatch, which was perfectly flat and square, and now look, I got a problem, self-created problem, because I didn't like that this hatch, it was always kind of bowy. When you would step on it, it would just bow down a little, so I put this piece of aluminum tube in here, welded it in to just reinforce it, give it some rigidity, and it warped the shit out of this thing. So now, let me see if you can see this. You can see how warped that thing is, so I'm trying to figure out how to get it back flat. I've been pounding on it with a hammer a bit, but that's not working very well. I need to set up something where I can bend it a little past where it needs to go, and then hopefully it'll rebound back to flat. But I think what tends to happen when you're welding, like with these fillet welds, this is called a fillet weld between these corners, it pulls the material in. So I'm hoping, since this side, this corner over here seems to be out a bit, probably because of opposing forces on the other side, I'm going to try to add some more weld in here and see if I can't pull it back in without making the problem worse. So let's give that a go. Okay, well, that actually worked a heck of a lot better than I thought it would, but I went a little too far. Now it's popped up on this side. So then I actually tried to weld on the other side again to balance it back out, and I went too far the other way, and now again the other side back too far this way. So I don't know if, I mean, it is better than it was, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it perfectly flat trying to weld it. So it's better than it was. This is still sticking up a good ½ inch or so warped, so I'm just going to take it back out and try to hammer it and pound it and see if I can flatten it out a bit, you know, relieve some of the tension from those welds, the overheating and all that. It's just like a constant problem I've had, is dealing with this aluminum warping. It's especially hard to weld, like, you know, all this stuff down in the floor. This is just really hard because as soon as it gets hot, the floor goes down, and then I get a big gap between here and the floor, and there's just no way to push up from the bottom. So I can push down up here and try to hammer it, but I just keep having to do lots of tacks and try to hold it together with rivets and everything else. But it's amazing how much this stuff warps. Okay, let's try again. Got it. It's not perfect, but it is pretty dang close. Look here, it's pretty daggone flat. That's gonna be good enough. I'll probably put a little piece of rubber down in there just to keep things from vibrating, and that's good. Well, that was a pain in the ass. Well, on to the next issue. Whew. Just getting ready to install this gun locker or gun bench back in here, and when I was cleaning it off and all, I realized there's some broken welds here. So if you can see that, another broken weld there, and same thing on this end, broken welds there and broken welds there. So just now started disassembling this lid, and we'll take the lid off so I got room to work and see if I can't repair all that and make it a little bit stronger. Okay, well, that was a bit of a job. Well, not too bad. You can see I took the lid off of the gun bench, gun box, and all these welds that were cracked. I decided to just put a piece of angle. This is just 1/8 inch thick, 1.5 by 1.5 legs, and I just ran that from here all the way to there, riveted it in so that, you know, braces or reinforces this crack. And then I just took another little piece of angle. This is just a thin piece that I got from some of the channels I'd cut out, and just put a little corner in there to support this crack. It doesn't really need much support here, but the lid kind of sits on it, and then also where these welds where they had kind of popped out after I try to clean out the cracks. So I'll just I'll probably seal this up a little bit because could allow a little bit of water entry, and this box is dry. And again, did the same thing on this side. Not too bad, just put that piece of angle in and then a couple more pieces right in the corners just to support that. The lid sits on there, and I just riveted. I didn't do any welding. This is kind of thin aluminum. It's, you know, not going to be very strong even if I did weld it. Could try to come and do, but I don't think it's necessary. It's not a critical structural piece. It just needs to stay together, hold up the lid, and that should do it there. All right, now it's time to, I guess I'll probably try to install this box and then I'll put the lid back on. It might be a little easier to do without the lid on it, so I'll take advantage of not having that lid on there, and I'll get this in there and we'll be good to go. I did take this angle piece off here that connects to the floor here. Instead of it being riveted, I'll probably weld it to this, but then still just rivet it to the floor. We'll see. Here we go again. Still not attached to the boat, but I did go ahead and weld this to it before it was just riveted there. And because rivets had broke, I actually put some couple bolts on this, one on this side, one on that side, but now it's just welded solid. So this is about as good a weld as I can do. I can't do much better than that. Over here, when I started down here, this part started bending in from warping, so got kind of a gap in there, and then that's why it looks kind of crappy. I just don't really know how to, I guess I should have stopped and restarted once it had cooled off. But now I'll go ahead and probably rivet this to the side of the boat and then put the lid back on. We'll see where we are. Okay, time for another update. I did finally finish up, I think I finished up everything with this bench. I showed you, I just, you know, put this connection down here, which is like a little foot, and then over here it never had anything supporting it except for some rivets shot in through here and through this bulkhead, so it was loose, and I had replaced them many times and added more. So now I just went ahead and added a piece of angle there and a piece here, which did a couple things. One is it supports it, but then it also keeps a whole lot of trash and stuff from being able to get down in there. The next thing I did was, this side is kind of flimsy. It's just a long span, and when this lid shuts, they build it to where, well, I've been a little bit now, but where this edge of this bench or lid is basically right at the edge of the bench, so it's flush, it looks nice. However, because this is a, you know, rounded right here, when you would, sometimes when you would sit on here or stand on it or whatever, the lip of this lid would want to close down over the bench, and then also which would pull it in and bend it a little more. That just didn't work very well. This is just, you know, too long of a span without, you know, it's not strong enough. So it had some rubber gasket here that had some grooves in it, and that would somewhat hold it if the lid caught in one of those grooves. But I just went ahead now and I added a couple pieces of angle here and here, just riveted them in, and that'll just keep it from, you know, it can't pop over the edge now, and it doesn't really get in the way or anything. So now I'm at the stage of starting to close up all the holes that are around. Like here on this side, you know, there's a pretty good gap in there. I need to close that up. Again, this one's a smaller gap, but it's a gap nonetheless. I want to close all that up so most of the trash and mud and silt can't get in there. You know, back here, there's a pretty good gap here. That one's going to be tricky. I'll have to figure out what to do with that. Then here in the floor, I had a piece of tape here because, you know, as it goes down like this bench, or sorry, this floor wouldn't connect to that rib kind of in the middle. So I welded it, you know, I welded it all the way to this rib through there, but then across here, and you couldn't really get to the rib down there. And I didn't want to just do a butt weld across here because I knew that would break. So I had left it just with a piece of tape on it. And it's only about this long. It's a cut in here about this long, but it's not welded. So I just came back and put this plate over it just to seal it up. And I just got it riveted in for now. I don't know if I'm going to keep it like that or eventually weld it, but for now, I'm going to do that and just see what happens. Here's another gap that's got to be sealed up, otherwise all kinds of trash and stuff will get in there, and there's really no good way to clean it out. So what I've done, I just took like a piece of angle like this. You can fit that right in there, and I cut a little gash here, and then I'll just fold that over, and I'll probably just rivet it in. Maybe I'll put a little weld here just to seal that up, but I doubt it. Probably just rivet it in and that'll be good enough. It doesn't have to be watertight. I just don't want pieces of trash and fish hooks and whatever else getting down in there. I did for this console and live well, I've told you many times, but it's just like a rattle trap. It was all put together with rivets held to the side of the boat and to the bottom of the boat. It just broke loose immediately. I added lots of rivets and those broke, and so, you know, again, I've welded all this through, and I decided I'm going to make this one solid weld here. This is a solid weld, and I also decided to just go ahead and tie these things together. They're already tied here with this piece of angle, but this is the part that's farthest away from the corner of the boat and the rib and the floor, so I'm going to go ahead and probably just put a weld here. I've already done this one where I just did a fillet weld all the way up to here, and then I'll keep going on across there. I don't know if maybe I'll put, that's going to be a little bit too wide for me to fill. I could put a piece of angle in there. Yeah, I'll probably just put a little piece of angle in there if I can to fill that gap and tie them together. So that's where we are now. We're just going around and filling little gaps and doing a lot of touch-up welding. I still need to do some more welding around the edge of this deck, but it's not going to be a solid weld around there. It just doesn't need it. Okay, that's the progress for now.